Okay, perfect. Then, yes, so welcome everyone from my side as well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending from which part of the planet you are currently joining. I'm in Austria in Europe, so it's 6 p.m. on my side. I just talked to Kevin before we started, and it's around lunchtime on his side. So I love those virtual meetings because we have people from all the parts of the planet. And welcome to Cloud Data Driven user group meeting. Thanks to Kevin for hosting me. Thanks to Jean for inviting me to present. It's a real pleasure to be with you today. Short introduction, few words about myself. As Kevin mentioned, so my name is Nikola Ilic. I'm originally from Belgrade in Serbia, but for last almost 7 years, I live in beautiful city of Salzburg in Austria, where I work as an independent data platform consultant and trainer. Living in Salzburg was the reason why I've chosen this nickname Data Mozart. You probably know that Salzburg is worldly famous as a birthplace of this great composer, so I was brave enough to use his last name as part of my nickname. And that's why I'm trying to make some music from the data. I used to work for a long time with traditional Microsoft's BI stack and then transition to Power BI a few years ago. Nowadays, I'm almost exclusively working with Power BI. You can find me on web. I'm blogging regularly. I'm trying to do that regularly at data-mozart.com. I'm also active on social media, LinkedIn and Twitter, so feel free to connect if you like. I also have my own small learning platform at learn.data-mozart.com. So yeah, make sure to check if you want to deepen your knowledge in different Microsoft data platform services. Privately, father of two, and true football and Barca fan. Uh, and Leo Messi, of course, even though he left Barca in the meantime, but yeah, I still love him. So what's in for you today? This is a chef's big book of Power BI recipes. So I split this in two parts: data modeling part recipes and data visualization recipes. So we will start, when you go to the restaurant, you usually start with a soup. So we'll talk about storage mode soup. Don't get lost in those titles of my recipes. So this is just some simple, uh, let's say, jokes that I wanted to make it more entertaining for the audience. Then we will taste bidirectional spaghetti, and after that, we'll take a stack filled with blanks. That sounds interesting, and that's really interesting in real life. Trust me. Then we will focus on explaining how field parameters work in Power BI. So I have two recipes for field parameters. One is with mushrooms, the other one is creamy cake in data visualization part. We'll also taste animated tooltip ice cream, hot chocolate with accessibility, bookmarks with vanilla, and we will wrap it up with personalized visuals apple pie. And I would invite you to, by the end of this session, of course, to share your favorite recipe with us in the chat window. As Kevin said, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and yes, Kevin will make sure to forward the questions to me. And of course, after the session is done, we can also spend some time if there are any questions. And with that in mind, since this is going to be a demo-packed session, I suggest we slowly start. And we are starting with storage mode soup. So when we are talking about storage modes in Power BI, you should be aware that there are 4 possible options to choose from. Each of them has its pros and cons, so that's why it is important to start your meal with a proper setting of the storage mode. So what are the options when we are talking about storage modes in Power BI? First of all, there is an import mode, which is a default choice. And I would say this, please keep in mind this first item that you see on your screen. Always use import mode. Always use import mode unless you have a valid reason not to. So import mode is not a default one just by accident. So there are some good reasons why import mode is something that Microsoft wants you to use. Import mode offers the best possible performance it offers you a whole range of, so all DEX calculations, all DEX formulas, everything will work when you're using import mode, which is not always the case with other import modes, but more on that in a few minutes. So always tend to use import mode unless you have a good reason not to do it. If you're not using import mode, the other option is direct query. So what is a direct query storage mode? First, to give you a definition, and then I will explain why should you use direct query just in those three scenarios that you see on your screen. Direct query means that at the query time, so when the user interacts with the report, Power BI generates, it's usually a set of queries, so it's very rarely one query unless you have just one visual on the report page. So a set of queries that are executed at the real time. So once the user clicks on the visual and interact with it, Power BI generates the queries, the set of queries, and push those queries to a data source. We are usually talking about SQL databases. So direct query provides certain advantages over import mode, but also comes with many downsides compared to import mode. First of all, performance. It can never be so fast like import mode. Second, not all DAX functions will work because some DAX functions can't be translated to SQL code. So the idea for direct query is that when you write your DAX code, those formulas must be translated to a SQL language that this data source, which is under the hood of Power BI report, will understand. So use direct query literally in those three scenarios. First, when you have extremely large data set, we are talking about amounts of data that, okay, so yeah, to be honest, there are two scenarios when we are talking about large data sets. If you are using shared capacity, so pro license in Power BI, there is a 1 GB limit per data set. And in real life, it can happen that you reach this 1 GB limit in not in many cases, but it can happen more often than not. So when you have those extremely large data sets and you are working with pro license, then obviously you must use direct query. If you have premium license and you enable large data models in your premium capacity, those data sets can go really can become really large, and Power BI will handle this. So first reason to use direct query is extremely large amounts of data. Second is real-time reporting requirements. So I already mentioned, when you're using direct query, your queries are being propagated to the data source directly at the query time. So the latest data that is stored in your database will be retrieved to the Power BI report, which is not the case in import mode. So with import mode, you store the snapshot of your data at a certain point in time. And then you need to refresh this snapshot depending on your business requirements. It can be once per hour, once per day, once per month, and so on. The advantage of direct query is that you get the real-time data. Third reason to use direct query is when your security rules are applied on the data source, because the credentials of the report user will be propagated to directly to the data source, and all security rules will be applied there. For this to work, you need to have a single sign-on enabled on the data source side. Then let's move to the third storage mode option, which is a dual. Dual, as you may assume, is just a combination of direct query and import mode. So the table that you're using in the report are imported into Power BI. So you have a data stored in memory, but also data stays in the original data source. So at the query time, depending from which tables, if you're using composite models, then dual is important to know. From which tables Power BI retrieves the data, it will trigger either import mode table or direct query mode table. There are many articles. I also wrote one on composite models. So dual is usually used in composite models for dimension tables. And when you set these aggregations, then it's important to set dimension tables to dual storage mode. And the fourth one is hybrid, which is the latest one. and it basically provides you with the best capabilities of both worlds. That means that over one same table, you can define two partitions. So you basically split the table into import mode partition and direct query partition. Now, if you're wondering what's the benefit, this direct query partition contains only latest data. So let's say from last 3, 4, 5 days, and then import mode historical data that doesn't change. You don't need to refresh your data each and every time. You will have the latest data always in real time with direct query, and historical data, queries over historical data will provide fast performance because they will be stored within the Power BI. So it's not an easy decision. You have 4 choices, but I would say keep in mind when to use direct query. So in these 3 scenarios, in all other scenarios, import mode, that's something that will provide the best possible performance in Power BI. That was the first recipe. Second recipe, bidirectional spaghetti. So maybe you have heard or read some articles or watched videos, and you heard that bidirectional filters, bidirectional relationships are evil. Uh, I can agree to some extent that they're not evil per se, but this is a powerful feature, and like every powerful feature, this one also comes with so this one also requires a experienced and knowledgeable and skilled data modeler. So why are they so important, and why they can be, let's say, dangerous in your data model? First, they can slow down performance. That's one potential issue with bidirectional filters. And the second one, they can also cause incorrect results. There is a great article written by Alberto Ferrari at sqlbi.com where you can find out more about data model ambiguity. So if Power BI can propagate filters in multiple different ways, you can't rely to have always accurate results. Depending which path the Power BI chooses for getting the data, it may happen that you get some unexpected outcome and unexpected numbers in your Power BI reports. So now I want to show you a very simple example how you can use bidirectional filters to achieve a very common business scenario, and how you can avoid in that specific business scenario, how you can also avoid using bidirectional filters and stick with single filter direction. So usually bidirectional filters are easy way to achieve behavior of slicing values with data. So if you have multiple slicers and you just want to connect those where data is relevant between the slicers, you will enable bidirectional filter or dimension to dimension analysis. Those are two most common use cases where I saw that people are using bidirectional filters. So maybe it's time to go to Power BI desktop. And okay, so let me first show you data model, and then I will explain what is the business request and how you can achieve it with bidirectional filtering and without it. So this is the data model, super simple. So I have one fact table, which are bets, and I have two dimension tables, competitions and customers. So you see nothing spectacular here. I have one-to-many relationships between dimension tables and fact table, so everything set as it should be. So the business request is that, for example, you see I have here slicers with customer names. I have slicer with regions, so where my customer, where competitions are located, and I have a competition name. So the idea is basically when I click, for example, on Angela Smith, let's see, Angela Smith places her bets on MLB and NBA. Okay, but in competition name slicer, you see that all competitions are displayed. Why is that happening? Let's go back to model. So once I choose my customer here, which is Angela Smith, this filter goes in that direction. So you see the direction of this arrow, and it will filter the data from my fact table. But this filter doesn't propagate further here, because you see that direction of another arrow goes also from dimension to fact table. So this filter cannot reach there. And basically that's what we are trying to achieve. So easy solution is just right click on this relationship and enable cross filter direction, set this to both. So what happens now? This filter will go to bets table, but also will propagate further to competition table. And now you see if I click on, let's reset this, and if I click on Angel Smith, just watch out what happens in competition name slicer. So now it's filtered. Problem solved, easy peasy. But this is fine because I have just maybe 10 rows or even less in this fact table. But if you have huge tables, this bidirectional filtering can cause significant performance degrade. So how can you solve this same requirement without having to enable bidirectional filter? I will revert this to single and go back to my report just to confirm that again it's not filtered. So what you can do, essentially, there is a measure that I've created which is called bets amount, and this measure is nothing else but just a simple sum of sales amount. So if I go to my competition slicer and open my filters panel, what I can do is, let me find it here. So my bets amount, as I said, just a simple sum. If I put this measure as a filter on my visual and say bets amount is not blank, let's apply this filter. So I have one-to-many regular relationships. If I now select Angela Smith, watch out what happens in competition name. I have the same behavior without enabling bidirectional relationship. So this is a very common business request to have these slicers, let's say, synchronized and filtered by each other. So instead of enabling bidirectional filters and risking some unexpected behavior and unexpected results, you can simply add your measure to the as a filter on your visual and achieve and get to the same outcome. Okay, so we are moving to stack filled with blanks, and I said one of the favorite requests from my guests in my Power BI restaurant is, Nikola, we don't want to see those blanks. We want to see zeros instead of blanks. Okay, like customer is always right. So you need to fulfill this request, and you can explicitly replace blank values with some other values. Usually it's zero. Sometimes maybe they will ask for something else, but it's usually zero instead of blank. So why is this important? I mean, it's fairly easy to do this in Power BI. You can do this by using if function, or you can use coalesce function. So it's very easy to do this, but you should be careful. And I will now explain you why. So first of all, as I said, use coalesce function or if function, but think twice before you eat that. Why? Because that your stomach may suffer afterwards. So I will show you why. Let's go to this one. Again, I will show you what I have here. So this is the Contoso sample database. Again, nothing special. And what I created here, let me just quickly show you. So I'm interested to see how my product 364 performed. So what I did, I have sales amount measure, and I just add as a filter in my calculate function. I add this filter that I want my product key to be 364, and total sales amount for 364 product is 350,000 US dollars. Okay, so this is a card visual. That's also important to have in mind, the type of visual that you're using when you want to replace blanks. Okay, so Card visual will generate just one single query, and that's fine. But what happens if after a month or two your users ask you to provide them with a table? So they want to see all this data, not just as an aggregated value, but for every single date. Okay, no problem. I'll switch this to a table, and I'll take from, let's say, dim date. Where is my date key? Here it is. And now for every single date in my data set, I have total sales amount for product 364. Can you spot something here? Some dates are missing. So we have 11th of January, then we have 13th of January, then we have 22nd of January. So what happened in the meantime is that we didn't sell any 364 product. And now that's fine, but sometimes your users want to see also those dates in between with zero. So they don't want to see that data is not contiguous. So what you can do, you can simply create a new measure, and I think I already created it. Let me show you. So what I'm doing here, I'm using coalesce function. As I said, that's the way to handle blanks in your Power BI reports. So what coalesce function will do, it will take the first argument, which is in this case my measure, my calculation that is currently in the table. This one, sales amount 364 product. And if it is a blank, it will replace it with zero. If it's not a blank, it will populate the value you see here. Okay, so it's quite straightforward. And if I now remove this one and put sales amount 364 with zero, what happened here? Now we have contiguous dates, and we have for all the dates where we didn't sell any 364 products, we have zeros instead of blanks. And that's okay for users if they want to see it that way. You see here we have somewhere we have sales, somewhere not, and that's okay if users ask you to do. But be aware what happens in the background. So I will quickly turn on Performance Analyzer and refresh this visual just to take the query and go to DAX Studio to show you what is happening under the hood. So I'll copy this query and I'll open DAX Studio directly from Power BI Desktop. So I'll turn on query plan and server timings, and let's paste our query here and execute this query. So this is my query plan. In this case, I have the engine scanning 2,556 rows, even though that there were only 58 dates where we had sales for our 364 product. Why is that happening? So first of all, this is a super simple calculation. This is relatively small data set, so it runs fast, but the engine scans unnecessary data. So what happens in this scenario is that you prevent a built-in feature of Power BI engine that is able to skip scanning of those rows where there are no matching records. Meaning, if we didn't have any sales for product 364 on 2nd of January 2005, it will simply skip the scanning. But whenever you replace blank with an explicit value, you lose this advantage, and the engine will scan every possible combination because it needs to return to check the value in every specific row and then return the explicit zero if there were no values. So be aware when you are replacing blanks in your reports. It may happen that significantly decreases the performance of your Power BI solution. Okay, so I think this is the last one in the main dishes part, field parameters with mushrooms. So before I show you why I call this with mushrooms, let's first try to explain quickly what are field parameters, because that's a relatively new feature in Power BI. I think it was originally introduced somewhere a year ago. last May or something like that. So in the dark ages of Power BI, before field parameters, if you wanted to dynamically switch the axis of the visual, for example, between the products and I don't know countries, you had to write exotic DEX code. Trust me, applying various tricks and using tree test function. Uh, or let's say that you want to give your users possibility to dynamically switch between different measures, different KPIs within the same visual. So I'm sure we all written at least once a DEX code that leverages this concept of disconnected table to manipulate the measure displayed in the visual, playing around with switch and stuff like that. It's much easier now with field parameters to solve some of the most common requirements in very easy and straightforward way. So without need to do those DAX gymnastic and stuff like that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Field parameters. This one. Okay. So what is the idea here? Let me first show you the data. So this is taken from the real life example. Of course, I replaced the real product names and real numbers with some dummy values. So this is from insurance industry. They have different products they're selling to the clients. Let's say product A, B, C, D, E. And they have two different metrics to calculate. It's earned premium and written premium. And each of them can be in three different currencies. It can be in euro, it can be in US dollar, and it can be in local currency. So you see that values are different, and we have earned premium euro, local, and USD also for written premium. So what's the idea here? The idea is to enable users to dynamically switch and choose what they want to be displayed in this table. So not to have everything, but for example, let's say that if I select, I want to see only earned premium in euro and local, just those two columns will be part of this table. Those here will not exist in the table. Is that possible? Of course it is. So let me show you how it's easy done with field parameters. First of all, I need two helper tables, and let's create them. So I'll go to enter data, and I'll call this one currency. So first of all, we need to handle the currencies, and currency, we have three possible values. We have euro, we have USD, and we have local. I'll load this. And in similar manner, I'll create a table that handles premium type. So it's either earned or written. So this one will be called premium type. And I have a column which is called premium type. And it can be earned or it can be written. Okay. And I'll put two slicers on my report page. Here's the one, not so big. Ooh. And let's put our currency on one slicer, and let's copy paste this and put our premium type on the second one. Okay, so now when I click here, nothing happens, obviously, here as well. So the idea is if I click on euro and earned, only this column should be part of my table. All the others should be omitted. So how it's done, let's reset this for a moment. And I will now create my field parameters. So you can create field parameters from modeling tab on the top, click on new parameter, and then there are two options, numeric range and fields. I'll go to fields, and let's call this one premium param premium. Okay. And what do we need here? We need from our premium table essentially all the values that we want to handle. So earned premium, euro, local, and USD, and written premium, euro, local, and USD. I don't want slicer because I want to achieve this behavior with my existing slicer here. So I'll click on create, and what happens now is, let me show you on the right hand side in data, there is a new table. Looks like a table. It's kind of calculated table called param premium, and you have here uh, different attributes of this table. So this is the name of my column of the value in field parameter, and this name of DAX function basically returns the original object name. This is just an ordinal position. What's cool about field parameters is that you can extend this built-in table by manually writing additional values. So in this case, what I want to provide additionally is currencies and premium types. So in this case, I will add here euro, and I will add earned. That's my first possible combination. So I'll copy this, and it's easier than to just this one is local earned, right? Earned premium local, yes. Then the next one is USD earned. Then the next one is Euro E and written. Then let's grab this one. Here we have local and written, and the last option is USD and written. So what happens now when I confirm this is that I get two new columns here, which have this dummy names value 4, value 5. So let's give it a proper name so we know what it refers to. So value 4 is currency, and value 5 is premium type. So what I can do now, because now still if I click here, nothing happens. So I somehow need to connect those tables to put them in relation so that my filters then work. This is my premium table, this is my currency table, and this is my premium type table. So now I need to create a relationship which will be between my premium type and premium type. Let's put it here just for you to, it's easier to follow, and currency to currency. So we have regular one-to-many relationships, nothing special here. So, but now those tables are connected. Again, if I click here, nothing happens because I need to put my field parameter here in the table. So I will remove all static values, and I'll just drag my param premium value from field parameter table. You see, when nothing is selected, it looks exactly the same like in the previous case. But the only difference is, look at this. Euro, I have just euro. Let's say euro and earned, I have just earned. Let's extend this, for example, on euro and local, just for written. So all possible combinations, you gave your users a full flexibility, so they can play around and choose whatever they want. It needed like 5 minutes to set up this. Previously without field parameters, you don't want to know this. So field parameters, very cool feature, and I really love it. Okay, so we are moving now to data visualization recipes, and first is animated tooltip ice cream. What is an animated tooltip ice cream? Let me show you. So I want to show how to use a tooltip page in Power BI as a special feature when default options. So you exhaust all the default options that are provided by default, and they're maybe not enough attractive, or maybe you need to provide some additional information to your report consumers. And in those cases, a little bit of creativity, yeah, doesn't hurt. So let me show you how you can use tooltip pages as a powerful way for communicating information. So let's go to this one. So I already have here tooltip page. This one, for example, that I've created, and that's a regular tooltip page. If you're not familiar with tooltip pages, let me show you quickly how it works. So, for example, let's say here in this table, once I hover over the specific value in the table, I see default tooltip which says for which year and month is this sales amount. Okay, so if I hover over it, the values are changing, and that's a default tooltip. Now, instead of this one, let's say that I want to use tooltips, and instead of default, I will select report page, and I'll select, I didn't, you need to provide an information to Power BI that you are allowing usage of this page as a tooltip. So that's very important. So toggle on this option, allow use as a tooltip. Now I'm going back to my original page, and let's go to general tooltips, and I have this tooltip regions option. Now if I hover over, you see I have this tooltip page showing me data instead of this boring black rectangle. So I provided my users with a little more information about those numbers here. But as I said, you can also go wild and do this fully animated tooltip. So what's the idea here? I don't know if you ever heard about the this feature which is called analyze. So if you right click on a certain data point, let's say May of 2009, and then analyze and explain the increase, that's AI feature, and Power BI will analyze some numbers and provide you with a explanation why you had increase in this period of time. Many users, many report users are not aware of this analyze feature at all. So how you can instruct them? So you can create a tooltip page. So let's create a new one. And so I click on to create a new report page. Let's allow this as a tooltip. And maybe instead of default tooltip size, maybe I want to make this a little bit larger. Let's say 400 width and with 655, see 650. Okay, so now you can also use images on tooltip pages, and because you can use images, you can also use GIFs. So what I did here, let me show you. If I go to my desktop and this one, analyze GIF. So I created a GIF in advance, of course, before this session. I created GIF that I want to use. So a small animation, how to use this analyze feature and how to find it. So it's here. You don't see it because my transparency is set to 100%. Once I reduce this to 0, and let's say this to fit, you see that there is now a nice explanation how to use this analyze feature. Okay. And if I now go back to my main report page, and let's put it here as a help tooltip. So go to general header icons and help tooltip. There is an option. I want to use report page, and this page one, I didn't give it the proper name, but never mind, just for the purpose of this demo, let's keep it simple. So now when my user hovers over this question mark, they will see this nice short introduction how to use analyze feature in Power BI. Essentially, you can create a short GIF of whatever you want, put it here, and your users will have like a short video playing in front of their eyes, and they can understand how to leverage this feature. That's why I called it ice cream. Everyone loves ice cream. Accessibility. That's super important topic. That's why I wanted to include in this big book of recipes. As you may know, one same Power BI report may look completely different across different devices. So Power BI report that contains exactly the same data points looks quite different on your desktop machine compared to, let's say, mobile phone or tablet and some smaller device. And similar applies to different persons. So you have to keep in mind that your users might have some visual, motor, or cognitive impairments. So the same report may look different from the perspective of users with deficiencies. Your users, as I said, might have different impairments, or maybe not, but you need to keep in mind all of them. If you ask yourself why accessibility matters, let me show you very simple example. If you are a person without any visual impairments, that's how you will see this nice colorful balloon flying over those green fields. But if you're diagnosed with deuteranopia, which is hard to pronounce, but it's also a medical name for green blindness, this same picture will look quite different. I think we can agree on that. And that same applies to colors that you are using in the reports. And with that in mind, you should always design your reports to be accessible to as many users as possible. Luckily, Power BI offers a whole range of built-in accessibility features. Some of them that I will mention now don't even require any additional configuration. So let's just briefly introduce them. Keyboard navigation. All Power BI visuals are keyboard friendly. Let's put it that way. And you can easily navigate between them. Uh, there is also possibility to click on the question mark to access the most frequently used keyboard shortcuts. Screen reader. Every Power BI object is compatible with screen readers. High contrast color. So if you set in your Windows settings, if you set high contrast mode, Power BI will automatically detect the theme you're using in Windows, and it will apply the same setup to your reports. Then we have focus mode. Focus mode enables users to fill up more space on their screens. And finally, show data table. So by using a shortcut Alt-Shift F11, users can switch to a tabular view of the data from the visual if they don't see colors in a proper way. Aside from these built-in features that don't require any additional configuration, so they are here for you out of the box. Power BI also offers a set of features uh, uh, out of the box as well, but they need to be configured by the report author. So they require some additional configuration. So what are those features? First, alt text that enables you to add a textual description of the visual elements on the report page. This way, your users can understand what kind of message the visual provides, even if they're not able to see the visual itself. So it's super important feature. Tab order. Tab order helps smooth keyboard navigation between the report elements, matching the way users will visually process the same elements. Then also take care of labels and titles. Avoid using acronyms and other abbreviations because that may produce confusion to your end users. Markers, very powerful technique to improve the readability, especially for the serious visuals like line visual, for example. And finally, themes, contrast colors, carefully choose report theme. Don't forget this photo of balloon and green fields, as users with color vision deficiencies may have issues understanding the data based on colorblind, unfriendly colors. So always communicate the information, not just by the color, but also use icons or additional text and so on. Bookmarks with vanilla. Yeah, that's also, again, out of the box solution like we had in some of the previous demos. Out of the box solutions sometimes are not enough. You want to provide your users with something extra to give them this feeling that your Power BI report goes above and beyond, this standard set of features. Um, So why this? I call this bookmark with vanilla. We will use card visuals in Power BI, and by default, card visuals are static, so you can't do basically anything with them except placing the value on the card visual. But with bookmarks, we can bring some life to them, and they can become dynamic. So little tweakings in this case may bring huge benefits uh, to Power BI report users. What's the trick here? Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to show you how to build it from the scratch, but I will explain how it works. So first of all, I will open my bookmarks and my selection panels. So selection and bookmarks. What's the idea? You see that I have two card visuals, sales quantity and sales amount. I have just aggregated number for all the filtered period here. So the idea is if user clicks on this plus sign, let's see what happens. Oh, now they see by year and month. Looks good. Clicking on minus will collapse this additional visual. Same here for sales amount. I have broken down my sales amount by year and month. I can also collapse it here. And if I click on this big plus sign in the middle, what happens? I have both of them displayed. Very cool. So how it's done? Super easy, but requires some effort. So you need to spend more than 5 minutes, like I did in field parameters. Here you will have to spend a little bit more time, but it's all about playing around with hiding and displaying, showing and hiding different elements on the report page. So I'll show you here what I have. I have minus sign and I have a plus sign. So in this case, I put one over the other and then I just playing, and for the specific bookmark that I've created, I have 6 bookmarks in total. For quantity, this is the bookmark that handles this card visual. For sales, I have basically two states of my card visuals, expanded or collapsed. And for all, this is for the big sign in the middle. So once here on quantity expanded, you just need to display this visual here and switch between plus and minus. When quantity is collapsed, you just hide the minus and display the plus, and vice versa. Same logic for sales amount, same logic for all. And it works like a charm, so your users can play around and click here and there. And yeah, basically we brought some life to card visuals, which are by default very static. This message in red, be careful with usage. So don't get mad, don't get crazy and create, a lot of those things on your report page, because trust me, that will bring more overhead for maintenance than functionality for your report users. So provide that when necessary, but don't get mad and don't get crazy, and don't create this for every single visual on the report page. Okay, fine. Let's see what's next. Field parameters, creamy cake. Okay, that's nice. I love this. So in this case, again, I'll go to Power BI Desktop to show you demo. And this one here, I have two visuals: sales amount by brand name, sales amount by what we have here. We have year and month, so nothing fancy. Okay. Let's reset this. And what's the idea here? The idea is to group different attributes and give them a little bit more life, like we did with card visuals previously. So let me show you how it's done. Again, I'll go and create my field parameters table. Let's call this one cloud data driven demo. And let's say what I need here. I will put, for example, something from product, let's say brand name, and I'll put from my product category, let's put product category name, and then let's use something from geography like continent and maybe country, and from date I'll use year. Okay, and for example, do we have month, or I don't see it? Okay, month name. Okay. And in this case, I want to keep this option add slicer to this page checked. So I want to create slicer here. So what I have, nothing special. I will put my where it is cloud data driven demo. I'll put this on rows instead of year and month. So now I click on brand name. I see brand names, product category name. You see how things are changing here on my columns. Okay, here now continent name, country, year, month, and so on and so on. So that's how field parameters work. But let's bring it a little more life here in this case. So again, I will expand this built-in set of values, and I will use unichar function from DAX function. Basically, this function in DAX will replace numeric value with icon with visual representation of this numeric value. So in this case, let's use I already prepared something. I hope you will like it, and I will just copy paste this everywhere. Maybe with comma it's a better idea, so I don't have to type anything. I will just, of course, switch those values in unichar function. So for the second one, let me check. Okay, 17991, that's the same one. And here I have 127,757, 757, and I have 128. So the full list of all unichar representations, visual representations you can find on the web. It's very easy. Okay, and let's confirm this. Again, I will rename this to, let's say, group. And now if I put this group on top of my values here from field parameters, look what happens. So I have these nice icons. This one is representing geographical attributes. Okay, this one represents products attributes, and this one represents calendar attributes. So you can, you can play around and use whatever you want. It's just for, end users. Maybe it's more attractive to have this option to use when slicing the data in the report. And one final thing, personalized visuals, apple pie. So I I sincerely believe that we all had this situation where some of your report consumers asked you to change that specific visual from a cluster column chart to a line chart, or to change the measure within the visual from sales amount to order quantity, for example. So you have this situation where one user wants this and the other user wants that. And we all been there, of course. And a lot of people, what I figure out, a lot of people are not aware of this feature, personalized visual in Power BI. So by enabling this feature, you are giving report consumers the possibility to customize the visual and adjust it to their own business needs. But let me show you, this thing is not enabled by default in Power BI. So you need to explicitly enable it. And I will show you now how. I need which one? This one. Okay. Okay, so this is report that uses the open data set for crashes, collisions in New York City. So what I have here is collisions by year and month. It's a simple line visual. So enable let's enable those personalized visual. So if I go to format and general and then header icons and then icons, all the way down, almost all the way down. Now it's enabled, so it was enabled for me because I already did this demo, but by default it's disabled. So if you turn this on, okay, so just for this visual here, watch the difference, what happens. So this visual can be personalized by report readers. Once I turn it off, this icon disappears. So if I turn that on, personalized visual, and now I publish this report to Power BI workspace. Let me show you, save, and let's do that quickly because, okay, we are already running out of time. So you enable it here in Power BI desktop, and okay, let's use this one. Okay. Okay. Kevin, is it okay if we wait 2-3 more minutes?
Brother, for you, 2-3 is all good.
To finish everything.
All good, my friend, all good.
Silence means approval, so yeah, we are good to go. Okay, thanks for confirming. Okay, got it. Thank you. And let's open now. This is my workspace, and let's find that one that I just published. So now my user can go here and personalize this visual. And let's say I don't want line chart. I want, for example, cluster column chart. There we go. I can also change x-axis, y-axis, tooltips, and so on and so on. So I can add a different measure. I can change the visual type and so on and so on. So this is a very, very powerful feature that a lot of people are not aware. And what's even more powerful, so once, let's say that I hate this line chart, I want cluster column chart. And instead of every day when I open this report, instead of changing this from line chart to cluster column chart, I can put it this way. So I like this and I want it this way. And I can go here to personalize bookmarks. Let me find where it is. No comment, favorites. Is it here? Yeah. Add a personal bookmark. And then let's say I will call this Nikola report. And I'll click this make default view and save. So now whenever I go to this bookmark, so whenever I go to this workspace and I click on my personal bookmark, that will be my default view. I can change this back to, for example, a line chart. Okay, and I can create another bookmark, which I will call, for example, Kevin report, and save. This will not be a default view. My is default view. And now I can easily switch between those two through the bookmarks as well. So this is saved. And now, as many users you have, you can please all of them by using personalized visuals. And yes, I would say we came to the end of this big book of recipes. Yeah, hope you enjoyed and that you got some new inspiration and ideas for your Power BI report. Looking forward to hearing questions if there are any.
So it does not look as if there are any. And I'm just talking to myself again, aren't I? It's all good.
Rani has one question. Peter asked, are you going to share the dashboard so we can dissect them? I have 5 different PBIX files. Yeah, you can drop me a message on LinkedIn and I'll share on my GitHub. I'll share the link to my GitHub because it's hard in any other way than that. So I have 5 different PBIX. I was lazy not to combine everything in one.
All right. Kevin also asked, what is the link to your book?
Yes, it's data minus. I will drop it in the chat window. data-mozart.com. Rani says I have implemented incremental refresh recently for the first time. The data is less in numbers now. Okay. And the question is,
come on, Ronnie, big reveal time. Is there any hookups I will encounter after data increases?
there any hookups after the data increases? No, because basically your incremental refresh window will always stay the same. So if you set incremental refresh for last 7 days, then yeah, if it all of a sudden happened that when you set incremental refresh for last 7 days, you had like 10,000 rows and now you have 10 million rows, then it will affect, but if it's like a regular workload, yeah, few thousand rows or few million rows, but it's stable, then you can expect the same performance every time.
So for the last one, the question is, where can we get the recording? That one will be available within the next day or so. John will be sending out a link for that actual goodness. So with that, since no one has any more questions, I do want to thank Nikola for all this awesomeness, and hopefully he will join us again very soon. We can hear more of his goodness.
Happy to join. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks everyone for joining.
Be sure to come and join us again next week when Sabrin and Jose will be talking on how to get the most from Azure SQL database. And don't forget, on May 4th is up and running how to make your Synapse Analytics POC a success with Andy Cutler. So with that, thank you all very much. Hope you have a great week, and we will see y'all again soon. Thanks, Nikola.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Have a great day, everyone.
You too.